Hi guys, this is oh my gosh, this is hard. Okay, hang on. Hi guys, this is Chris with CodeChris.com. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, all that fun stuff. Yeah, I need a better intro. I don't really know what would be good for that. Anyways, the point is, so I'm just I went through one review for a course, and there's another one that I really want to recommend out there, and other people have mentioned it before. I know Real Tough Candy talked about it. Joe at Coding Phase has talked about it, and now I'm gonna talk about it just because as I was going through this course, I mean, like, I binge this thing as much as you can binge a Udemy course, right? I mean, I finished this thing in like I don't know, no, it was not 2 weeks. I don't know, but fairly quickly for a Udemy course. And the reason why is because it doesn't have any like follow along with your text editor kind of a thing. Instead, it's very much a high level overview of what's going on under the hood of JavaScript. And before we get too much into this, he is talking about ES5, and I know right now there's ES6. So some of the syntax has changed. Nonetheless, though, I'd still recommend it because even though this course is older because it's using older syntax, a lot of what you're going to be exposed to is ES5 JavaScript, as well as, in my opinion, a lot of the syntax I think is a little bit more clear and less abstracted away with ES5 than when you get to ES6. Once again, they're doing the same thing. It's just you're changing some words and how you write things with the syntax. But nonetheless, now who is this course for? Everybody. And I mean everybody. I don't care if you've been doing JavaScript for like 10 years, or if you've been doing JavaScript, like if you're brand new to JavaScript, right? And so, I've been messing with JavaScript for a while, and I've been writing JavaScript code, but at the same time, I did not know JavaScript the way I wanted to, right? Like, I knew how to do things, I knew how to manipulate stuff, that kind of stuff, but, I couldn't find, and it was really hard, I could not find something that was telling me how JavaScript is working and why it's working the way it does. I feel like every other language, that always happened. Like, they would explain to you, if you're like learning Java or C Sharp, like they'll explain like how memory is allocated, how the computer is running through the code, and they'll kind of explain sort of like what the computer is doing, right, and why it's doing it the way it works, and how that language basically is built. This is probably the first course where I felt that I understood and it made sense about the JavaScript, and how it's working under the hood, right? And I don't say that very lightly because, I've gone through a ton of JavaScript stuff that I could find, uh, books and, websites, blog articles, tutorials of the yin yang, everything on YouTube you can imagine. And really, this is the first time I actually, like, that's what I was looking for. That's one thing that was like nice about school. I felt like in school they had to teach you the why, they had to teach you the whatever, and it kind of made sense. I don't feel that always happens with JavaScript, and I don't know why, but it just didn't. It's just very hard to find this kind of material. So anyways, let's speed up here. So the name of the course is called JavaScript Understanding the Weird Parts. And I cannot recommend this enough. And it's to everybody. The thing is that you've been working with JavaScript for a while, but you did not know some stuff, right? There were these like odd anomalies. There were these weird things like, why does the string be equal, right? Why does the double equal and the triple equal work the way they do? Why are they even in there, right? And a lot of this stuff, like, since then, like, I've been piggybacking off of just this other guy, man, I can't remember his name, but he's got like some older lectures where he's like defending JavaScript and explaining like the history of it, and it makes sense. I'll leave a link to him too. Also, it's some professor guy, probably. I don't know. But the point is, with this course, man, what it does is it does a really good job of explaining how the computer is reading the JavaScript, right? The order it takes place, how hoisting actually works, you know, how each one of these loops work and why they work the way they do, how variables work. Like, you think you understand how variables and names work. Yeah, you don't. I mean, you do, but you don't. I don't know. There's extra stuff in there that's really cool. That's really well explained, very well put together. Closures and just understanding scope and you know objects and prototypes. I've understood them both so much better since this course. Okay, and once again, this course was recommended by two people that I trust and have watched, and that's the Real Tough Candy and Coding Phase. And though I was like, all right, whatever, I'll give this a shot. Like, what, I already know JavaScript. I don't want to waste time with stuff that I already know. But it's not about that. It's getting your. It's like the difference between, you know, being like, knowing how to play basketball, just the basic game. But then, like, when you do it as a profession, like, when you go pro, like, you're learning all sorts of stuff you didn't even think about, right? Like, you're learning plays, you're learning, how to manipulate the other team, and, maybe that's not the best, I'm not using the best metaphor, but the point is, it's the difference between, going from hobby to pro, and it's making a huge difference. Right away, it started clicking. The guy does a really good job explaining stuff, very clear and precise, very slow and methodical. In fact, sometimes a little too slow for me. I mean, I usually speed up my Udemy courses anyways on the 1x. I kind of usually crank that up. And so with this one, I actually cranked it up to, I think, 1.5, 1.25, depending on what's going on. Depending on the course, sometimes I can crank it up more, but I want to make sure I'm understanding, so I'll rewind it or whatever. This one you're probably not going to listen to at one speed, but even if you do, like, it's totally fine. Nonetheless, yeah, it's just a really, really important course, and I can't stress that enough. The reality is it's almost always on sale, and this guy is such a good teacher. I was like, I gotta find this dude. I gotta find, what other stuff does he have to offer? He was such a good teacher. What other stuff does he have? And Anthony Alicia. Okay, so I'm like, what other stuff does he have? Because I want, this is my guy. This is like the teacher that I like. And the thing is, like, I looked everywhere online, man. I don't know what happened to this guy. I just couldn't find him. Like, I found, like, his Twitter, but, like, that seemed to stop. And I don't know. If anybody knows, by the way, what happened to Anthony Alicia, please let me know, like, so I can follow him on Twitter, or, like, get his latest book on whatever, or, course or whatever. The guy is, like, really good teacher, really good teacher. In fact, so good that right after this, I was like, all right, what else does this guy have? And then I saw, I'm like, oh, dude, he's got a class on Node. Dude, I gotta get this. And so that's what I did. I mean, like, right after completing this course, I jumped onto the, I've been messing with Node already. I've done some projects in Node already, but it's the same thing. Like, I know how to make the Node stuff work, but there's a difference between like, stuff being passable and working and functioning, and actually knowing the why. And the why makes the debugging so much easier. And so even though, like, I've messed with some Node stuff before, I've got a few Node projects, I was like, I gotta get this course. I gotta get it, because that's gonna help me so much. And I've started the course, and already, like, I'm like, oh, dude, it's starting so. It's backing things up, man. Backing it up. What is a client? What is a server? Once again, things that I already know, but he starts from that baseline. So if he's starting so low as what is a client and what is a server, he's gonna he's gonna explain how that all the way gets to, you know, the code, right? He's talking about the V8 engine, right? He's talking about C++ and how V8 is written in C++, but allows basically you to write JavaScript at a high level, and because of the way it's interpreted, it's really cool stuff. It's really cool stuff. And if you know C++, it means you can extend things. And that's the cool thing about this guy. He explains how you can go under the hood and build your own stuff, right? You know, with the, backing it up here. Yeah. So like with this course, right? What he does is he's basically, you've seen jQuery, right? And at the end, and then towards the end of this, what he does is he goes into the jQuery source code, right? And he's like, guys, you can learn anything, right? And that's the cool thing, is like it gives you such a sense of confidence, because after completing this course, you know, we're looking through the jQuery stuff. I was like, oh my gosh, like this would have seemed like craziness. Would have been so confusing, because I know, like, I've opened up the jQuery source stuff, right? I've been curious, and I'm like, oh, these are like, you know, next level JavaScript developers. These are like the gods, right? These are the dudes who you see like with, like, you know, the glasses, who work for like NASA and whatever, and they're the ones who write this extreme code that builds libraries, that builds frameworks. No, it's not like that at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There's nothing magical about jQuery, about frameworks and libraries, right? There's nothing magical about it. It's just that you don't really understand what's going on under the hood and how JavaScript works. That that's why it doesn't make sense to you. So what I would simply say is a simple test, right? Like, well, man, I know JavaScript already. I know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you feel so confident in JavaScript, I challenge you to open up any source code for any framework or library, right? And if you can run through it and make sense of it, then yeah, you don't need this course. But at least for me, myself, I know that, you know, when I open up some source code like that, it's super intimidating. It's super intimidating, right? And the thing is like, I learned some cool tricks. I learned things that make just kind of make sense once he explains some of the history, and he explains, you know, why things work the way they are. I mean, it kind of clicks, right? And more so, you can start to avoid some of the common pitfalls. And you know, it's just good reinforcement, what it is. And the thing that I actually like about it, this is the thing that I like, is I was looking for something like this. At this time, I'm tired of tutorials that are just, you know, follow this step, follow this step, follow this step, without explaining the why you're doing it. Because what ends up happening is everybody thinks that, you know, because you've built a you know, you've built an app alongside somebody else, that you understand how that app was built. But that's not the case. You understand the syntax. You basically followed along the syntax, but you're not really thinking more abstractly, right? The purpose of tutorials in general is to get that abstract concepts across, so that when you're building things, you can start to figure out what would be applicable, what would work, right? And I think that's something that just, you know, doesn't happen with a lot of tutorials. And this one's different because it does the opposite. It's like, you know what, I don't care about tutorials in the sense of like follow along. He's just, you know, writing a little bit of code, explaining it, right? Backing it up, that same piece of code, right? He has pieces that are like 3 lines of code, and he'll spend 15 minutes on it. That is excellent. That is good stuff, right? So anyways, this is my opinion, but it's definitely, you know, once again, a course that I'm strongly going to recommend. Oh, man. I'm sorry. There we go. I was going to the weird parts. You know, I'm trying to get better about, like, leaving ratings and reviews and stuff, and this course and another one are the first ones that I've actually, like, had to leave feedback. I'm like, this is this is too good a course for me not to leave feedback, to like, to try and spread the word about something that's, that has been so helpful, and has really, with such a short time, like elevated me so much better, so much faster, so much more confident. I can't recommend it enough. And by the way, so if anybody knows what happened to this dude, please let me know. Um, Really, really good teacher. Can't say enough positive things about it. Okay. So, anyways, so that's JavaScript. Understanding the weird parts, highly, highly recommended. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's a definite 10. No, take it back. It's an 11 because it succeeded. It superseded my expectations. Okay, superseded. It surpassed my expectations by far. And I think, and I had seen this thing on Udemy for a while. I'd always passed it. Like, understanding JavaScript, the weird parts, how a loop works, how for works. I got it. That kind of stuff. So I always thought it was like a beginner thing. It's not a beginner thing. You should know a little bit of JavaScript. Like, you should know just the syntax of JavaScript. Like, if you've been learning JavaScript for a little bit, a few weeks or whatever, and you're understanding how JavaScript works, then yeah, go ahead and do that. Or a few, if you can do some basic stuff in JavaScript, now you're ready for this, okay? It's not an intro class. It's not about, oh, this is, how we write a loop, and this is what a loop does. No, it's a little bit more in-depth than that, and essentially it's what, I imagine if you were going to university, the kind of education you would get, where there would actually be an explanation and a lecture on this. And so it is imperative that you really give it a listen. And that's the great part too. If you've got a baby, or you've got, your hands occupied with like cooking or whatever, it works out really well because you can, for me, like I was able to like, rock my kid while I was like watching this video, right? And I can back it up and whatever the case is. It's something you can watch. And for me, something that you can watch and absorb, that's important. Especially even in my current position, but watch and absorb, that's super important. Because it means the material's so good that you don't need to follow along, right? And once again, it's not really that kind of course where you need to like, but you'll want to mess with it on your own. You'll want to test that out on your own. And sure enough, man, he made the inspector, right? Like, I was just like messing around with this, and I was like, oh, like that's really cool. Like, he's in here just doing some basic stuff, and I don't know, like it just got really interesting. So, anyways, all right, like right? Like what? That's already there? Like, there's what? Although that's not really like a good example of stuff, but like I've always seen like the prototype here, and I was like, wait, I'm a little confused what's going on. It's not the point, right? It's just too good a course. Can't recommend it enough. Once again, it's on Udemy, $10. If you do see it on Udemy and it's more than $10, just wait a week or two, right? Because there's always a thing. But yeah. So anyways, guys, this is Chris with CodeChris.com. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. Have a nice day.